The producers of Harvesting Happiness podcast proudly present Positively Contagious, the mental health survival kit for the COVID-19 pandemic. Positively Contagious with Lisa Cypers-Kamen and Andrea Mengele features tips and tools for staying sane and emotionally fit while sheltering in place. Give us 9 minutes or less, and we'll give you smart and simple strategies for your well-being. This is Lisa Cypers-Kamen, host of Harvesting Happiness, and producer Andrea Mengele in the house for another episode of Positively Contagious. We're talking about tips and strategies for dealing with COVID-19. We're calling it the Coronacation over here. Today we're focusing on impermanence, the impermanent nature of all things. You know, everything that we go through in our lives, including life itself, is impermanent. And the sooner each one of us can understand and embrace the temporary nature of all things, I would say the happier we'll be.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
And it's a big time challenge.
Yes, it is. I mean, but all things are temporary. All things are fleeting to some degree or another.
Yes. And this too shall pass. You know, probably one of the most famous statements that we use in our lives, and this too shall pass. And it's true. Any discomfort will pass. Any joyful moment, the flip side of the same coin, will pass, right? Nothing remains the same. Nothing stays the same forever. And every condition that we find ourselves in as a result of this health crisis will change.
Yes, the only constant is going to be the change. And news changes by the hour right now.
Oh, but that goes back to the news diet. You have to listen to that episode about recommendations for limiting that, exactly. Right?
Yes.
But the presence, how can we be more fully present? How can we more fully occupy our own lives, especially during these challenging times?
Well, you know, something that I've learned, and I've read this online and in books that I've read from several different sources, the human brain can only hold on to one thought at a time. We can have lots of thoughts swirling around that seem like they're just, you know, that are very chaotic, and it can seem kind of loud in our mind sometimes. But if we allow ourselves to slow down and breathe, we can only hold on to and focus on one thought at a time.
Yes, this is an absolute fact, 500% truth, that although we believe ourselves to be multitaskers, we're not really multitaskers.
No.
We're unitaskers that toggle.
Yeah, exactly. We have multiple tabs open. We're not sure where they all came from or which direction to go in.
But when we're here, like, for example, if you're listening to this little mini episode, you're here. If you're fully here and you're not on your phone and you're not playing on your computer, but you're listening to this thing for the 6, 7, or 8 minutes that we're yakking it up, if you're fully with us, you're fully present. So all your worries and your stresses about everything else out there, COVID-19, your shopping list, your commute, you being cooped up in your house, whatever it is, they don't exist for those period of minutes because your mind is fully present. It's fully engaged in what's going on around you. And there are several techniques to doing that. You know, listening to a podcast, meditating, knitting, cooking, swimming, you know, you can name more, Andrea, but, you know, if we practice presence, which I think is a huge challenge, we will find ourselves to be more happy.
Yes. And, you know, something else too is, negative emotion needs to be dealt with. We do need to allow ourselves to feel our feelings. Sometimes trying to outrun them creates more anxiety and more exhaustion than just allowing yourself to feel it, but remembering that we shouldn't unpack and live there.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was thinking about this last night. I wrote an article, oh my gosh, it must have been 8 or 10 years ago. It's probably one of the most successful articles that I've written. It's entitled Happily Pissed Off. Mm-hmm. And it's about really tapping into when we are feeling negative emotions and we are feeling upset, that we really take a minute to acknowledge what that is and say, okay, yes, I am angry. You know, I do feel like I've been upended by life. I do feel like, you know, like I've been hit by a tsunami with this thing that's going on. and take a moment and stew in those juices because they are valuable. Those juices are very, very valuable because they can catalyze change.
Yes, yes. And understanding that if we don't deal with what's bothering us, it will come out in other ways. It always does.
Yes. We will yell at our kids. We will snap at our spouses. We will do self-destructive things. We will say things that we can't take back, and on and on and on and on and on, right?
Yes, all those not so pleasant parts of human nature.
Yeah. So the challenge of this episode really is to practice presence. And that may be really hard for many of us who are used to going, a mile a minute. Start with 1 minute. Start with trying to slow down that minute and understand you can never retrieve those 60 seconds. Poof, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get a do-over.
No, not at all. Not at all. Journaling is very helpful too. And, not everyone likes to write. Not everyone enjoys writing. But you don't have to feel stressed or pressed about it. You can even write something down on a piece of paper and then, tear it up into a million pieces. Safely flush it if you want to. Light it on fire in a fireplace. That's very therapeutic. You'd be surprised at how it feels if you've not done this before, at how it feels to watch that turn to ashes.
Well, which goes back to an earlier episode that we did on spiritual life and practices, that these rituals that you're talking about tend to take on a very, very deep meaning and imprint in our mind an event when we practice presence and we write that journal piece and we burn it. We want to get rid of that negative experience or those negative thoughts about that experience. That's a very interesting point that you make. We are going to move on. We're going to do another episode, but we're not going to do it right now. You've been listening to Positively Contagious with myself, Lisa Cypers Kamen, host of Harvesting Happiness, and our producer of Harvesting Happiness of many, many years, Andrea Mengele, who's been so gracious and fun to hang out with on these episodes. We are going to sign off for now. We'll be back again with another episode. We're talking about tips and strategies for handling coronation or COVID-19. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay humorous. Thanks for joining us on this special episode of Positively Contagious. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen and producer Andrea Mengele signing off for now. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay positive. Don't forget to tune in for our regular consciously prepared brain food on Harvesting Happiness, wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Harvesting Happiness consulting services, please visit harvestinghappiness.com. Get social with us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness, on Twitter at HH Talk Radio, and on Instagram at HH_Talk Radio.